Today's daf, Be'ez Hashem, is Masechta Kiddushin Daf Nun Tes, and we will begin Daf Nun Ches Amud Beis just right before the Mishnah, the end of the parak. Tanan. I just wanted to talk about Toivas Hanoah, which was the previous discussion in the last parak, the last sugi that we discussed, and basically what we left off is that Toivas Hanoah, the right of discretion. Person has tevel, and he has the right of discretion to decide which coin he's going to give the truma to. And if someone steals that right from him, did he actually steal money, or it's not worth anything? So it's a machlokes amaroyim, not tanoim, if it is a money or not. And what's the daf gemina? It's very simple. First of all, if a person gives a woman the toivas hanoah, the right of discretion to decide who she's going to give his truma to. And if he says, this will be for your Kiddushin, and according to one opinion, it is a good Kiddushin. Another, if you hold Toivas Hanoah is not money, so then you didn't really give her anything. Now we begin towards about 5 lines before the end of the parak. So now we learn to the Mishnah. Hamakadish with trumais of a masters of a matonis. Someone who is mekadesh nisha with trumas, masters, matonis, gifts. The mechatas of the ephapara. He gives a woman the water of a chatas or the ashes of the paraduma. Okay, so I don't know. He owned the paraduma, or how did he give? What did he give her? Or let's say he gave her an ashes mixed with the water, and obviously you know what they're used for. They're used to purify somebody who's a tamei mace. If you give that to a woman and says, "Here's your kedushin," she's mukudeshes. After Yisrael, that was going on before. So we see that if you give efer para mechatas, you can be mekadosh anisha with that. Uriminu, I'll ask you a contradiction. We learned in the Nara the Brisa, hanoito sachar lodin, dina betelim. The Brisa introduces that you're not allowed to take money for a mitzvah. So the Brisa says that if you take schar, to do a din Torah, you're dying, you take payment for that, dina betelim, then we disqualify your din Torah. We disqualify you as a judge. Lo ha'id, if you know that you're supposed to say testimony and you say pay me, so I'll say testimony on your behalf. Edusa betela, his testimony is null and void. Lahazoy, so the kadesh, if you take money to sprinkle the paraduma on somebody who's tamei, or lakadesh, or to makadesh the paraduma, basically you're the one doing the mixing, taking little ashes and mixing with the mayim chayim. If you take money for doing that, it's like taking money for performing a mitzvah. Meimav meimarav eifa eifa mikla. We disqualify your water, and your ashes is considered as ashes of worthlessness. So we see that if you take money to sprinkle the paraduma on somebody, your sprinkling is worthless. So if you're going to tell a woman and say, I'll sprinkle paraduma on you, and you be mukudeshes to me, it should be not kedushin, because you didn't give her anything of value. And so, and how does our Mishnah say that you are mukudeshes? Rabbi explained. Like kasha, it's not a difficult question. Kam b'schar hava'ah umilu. You're taking reward on bringing the ashes and filling up the water, bringing the ashes to a certain place. Let's say she's in another city, and you're taking the ashes to bring it to her. Or you're not actually taking reward for sprinkling it on her, or mili, or doing the mixing it with the water. So if you take reward for that, and you say, instead of paying me for doing that, then I want you to be mikadeshes with me, that would be permitted. Kan, when is it not worth anything? B'schar hazah v'kiddush, when you're actually taking reward, you're taking wages for actual sprinkling and actual sanctifying the efer para. Our Mishnah says over here, if you mekadesh is bechatas uve efer para, which means what our Mishnah is basically saying, you're mekadesh the isha by bringing her the mechatas. You're mekadesh the isha by mixing the efer para. So Uktani Hasam, then it's permitted. Uktani Hasam over there, so it's a Hechsher mitzvah. Uktani Hasam over there, it's Lahazis Ula Kadesh. You're actually taking money to do the actual sprinkling, to do the actual production of the Ephah Para. So that is not permitted. Shema Mino, that is a proof positive of that is the difference between our Mishnah and the Brisa. And our Mishnah says if you can actually be Mekadesh and Isha with the tircha, the actual bother of bringing her the May Para and the Ephah Para. New Mishnah. Someone says to his friend, say Mekadesh li Isha plainis, do be Mekadesh to me this woman, v'halach, and he went, and v'kichla atzma, and he was Mekadesh her to himself. In other words, he tricked him. The friend said to the woman, you become my wife. So v'halach is a little extra word over here. She's mekudeshes to the friend. Like you don't sit. It seems obvious if she agreed to be mekudeshes to the second friend. So they speak about what is the novelty of this idea in the Mishnah. But we'll see more about that. Did the friend do something wrong? He liked the girl, so instead of doing his shlichus, he did it for himself. A man says to a woman, he says to her, you are betrothed to me after 30 days. And somebody else is mekadesh her. Within the 30 days, she's mekudeshes to the second person. Because he wanted his kedushin to take effect after 30 days. So therefore, if she's a Bas Yisrael and she's the second guy is a Kohen, she can start eating Truma because she's for sure betrothed to the second person. Because the first person said, I want the Kedushin to happen after 30 days. But what happens if he says it the first guy says it in a mixed up way? He said, Ma'achshav, I want you to be Kedushin to me now. And then he also says, I want you to be Kedushin to me after 30 days. So what did he mean? Someone wants to be Mekadesh within 30 days. Mekudeshes ve'ina mekudeshes. She's Mekudeshes, not Mekudeshes. By Yisrael l'koyin, by Koyin l'Yisrael, loy toichal betruma. So let's get back to the first case of the Mishnah, and that's what we're going to be discussing. A man said to his friend, do me a favor, be my shliach, and Mekadesh me this woman. I like this girl, do it on my behalf. And the guy, the shliach went, the friend went, and was mekadesh her for himself. So he happened to like the girl himself, and he was mekadesh her for himself. So that it happens. So Hoymel Chavera. Tana, we learned in the Brisa, the second guy, Masha Asu, he got away with whatever he did, he did. El Shnohag boy minig ramois. He did something very, very deceitful. And basically, if you want to speak Lashon Hara about this guy, you can a little bit in a certain way, to be aware that this guy is a deceitful person. And the Tana Didon, that's what the Brisa says. And Tana Didon, Holach Nami Diktoni, Holach Baramois. The Brisa, our Mishnah says, V'holach v'kitchen la'atzmai. And as I said when we said the Mishnah, means he went in a deceitful way. He thinks he's going to get away with it, and he was Mekadesh her for himself. Yes, it's his wife, but he did a deceitful manner. Now the Gemara asks just a side question. Our Mishnah says, what does our Mishnah say? He said to his friend, go be Mekadesh me somebody so-and-so, right? And Maishna Hasam, we go to Daf Nun Tesam at Aleph. Maishna Hasam, why do we say over there, in another scenario, we use the expression, whoever sends to his messenger. In other words, in another case, in the last parak, we say, if a man says to his shliach, go be mekadesh me my woman, and she's in a certain place, and he was mekadesh her in another place. So the Mishnah says over there, it's not mukudeshes. So the Gemara over here is semantically trying to determine why in our parak we use the expression ho'imer lachaverai, and over there we use this expression ho'imer l'shluchai. So the Gemara says, here we're telling you a novel idea, and there we're telling you a novel idea. Here we're telling you a novel idea. If our Mishnah would have said shluchai, if you sent to a messenger, go be mekadesh me a woman, and he was mekadesh him for himself, havaminia, and then I would say shluchai hu dahaveramai. If somebody does that, and you were a trusted messenger, and you did that, then you're considered a deceitful person. The samchadaite, because the guy that sent you was relying on you. Savar, he thought of elish luchusa, he's going to do my bidding. But if you send your friend to be mekadesh, to mekadesh a certain woman, the loisam chadaiti, he's your friend. You don't normally make your friend into your shikingel, into your messenger. Ema, I would say loy lahavi ramai. He wouldn't be considered a deceitful person if he does that. So therefore, our Mishnah says that even if a friend and you weren't being so relied on by the person who sent you, if you go ahead and instead of be mekadesh it for the one that sent you, you mekadesh it for yourself, you're considered a ramai, a deceitful person. Says the Gemara, Hasam Ravusa Kamash Malan. Over there is a big chiddush, and there the chiddush was that you said to your shliach, go be mekadesh me a woman in this place, and he was mekadesh her in another place. Is not a good kedushin. The Tane if would say if you told that to your friend, only if your friend is your shliach, then I would say that if your friend didn't follow the directions to precisely, then it's not a good kedusha. The savar, because when you made him your friend the shliach, loy tarach, he's not going to bother to be mekadesh in another place, and you don't want him to be a messenger to search out for the woman, no matter where she is. So you said, if she's in this place, be mekadesh her. So the friend should not be mekadesh her if he finds that woman in another place. Ava shluchai, but if you're sending your messenger, the torach, when you're sending a shliach and you're hiring a guy to do your bidding, so then you want him to work hard to find the woman, even though you said she's in this place, but you weren't pedantic about it, that you could only be mekadesh her in this place. I might think maramokam hulai. The reason why you said that the girl is in this place is because you're showing where the shliach to go, but you're okay if he's mekadesh her in another place. Kamash malam, no, it's not okay if he's mekadesh her in another place. Could be that he does not want somebody else to find out that he's mekadesh the woman in another place. Maybe he has a bad name there. He's very specific about where he wants the kedushin to take place, and therefore the shliach who's mekadesh her in another place is not a good kedushin. Now the Gemara says a few fantastic stories. Listen to this. Rav and Chasida Ozla Kedusha Itzel Lebrei. Rav and Chasida wanted mekadesh a woman for his son. So Kitchel and Knifeshay. So then he said, I like this girl. I'm not going to marry, this girl's not for my son. He was mekadesh her for himself. Says the Gemara, Rav and Chasida, you call him in the Chassid. But Tanya, we learned to the Brayse, if somebody does that, Masha Ase Ase L'Shanoig Boy Minig Ramois. He did a deceitful thing. So why Rav and Chasida do such a thing? Answers the Gemara, Lo Yahaviu L'Nalei. He understood that this girl would not have wanted, and her family would not have wanted her to marry Rav and Chasida's son. So the Gemara says, okay, but before you mekadesh her for yourself, you should go back to your son. Rav and Chasida should have go back to his son and notify her, listen, they don't want you, they want me, the father. So the Gemara says a fantastic thing. Savar, Rav and Chasida held, if I'm gonna go back and tell you about they don't want you, somebody else is gonna. I guess this was a very good shidduch. Somebody else is gonna give kedushin to her. So therefore, Rav and Chasida wanted to take care of it right away. Even though there's a mazel of who gets what zivig, you see that when the zivig you're faced with the zivig right in front of you, you have to take advantage of it right away. Rabba Bar Bachana, another story. Yav le'zuzah l'Rav. Rabba Bar Bachana gave some money to Rav. Oma, he said, Zabna nilei lahai Arab. Go purchase for me the following piece of land. Ozel Zabna l'nafshis. Rav, instead of purchasing on behalf of Rabba Bar Bachana, he purchased it for himself. Says the Gemara, Tanya Masha also is noi boy minag ramois. Rav did, according to what we're saying, he did something very deceitful. Rabba Baba Chana said, purchase the money, this piece of land for me, not for you. And so why did Rab purchase it for himself? Bagadali Mahavale. It was a certain area where there were very tough people, and they would not have sold it to Rabba Baba Chana. So the Rav, they would have only sold it to Rav because Nagbe covered, because they would have given honor to Rav. The Rabba Baba Chana lo Nagbe covered. For Rabba Baba Chana, they would not have shown honor to, and they would have never sold it to him. So the Gemara asked the same question. He should have notified Rabba Baba Chana, listen, I'm not buying the land for you, I'm buying it for myself because they don't want to sell it to you. Sava, Rav said if he took the time to go back and tell Rabba Baba Chana, in the meantime, also in the Shrina, somebody else will come and purchase that land. So he wanted to get the deal done right away, so he didn't have time to go back to tell Rabba Baba Chana that he's purchasing the land for himself. Says the Gemara, Rav Givdal Hava Bahapach Bahich Ara. Rav Givdal was investigating to purchase a certain piece of property. Also, Rabba Abba Zabna. Rabba Abba went behind him and bought the piece of land. So Rav Gidal was about to purchase the land. Also, Rav Gidal Kavle Rab Zera. Rav Gidal complained about Rabba Abba to Rab Zera. Also, Rab Zera Kavle Rab Yitzchak Napcha. Rab Zera went and told over what Rabba Abba did to Rab Yitzchak Napcha, Rab Yitzchak the blacksmith. And apparently, Rabba Abba learned or would visit Rab Yitzchak Napcha. Amalei, so Rabbi Yitzchak Nachman said, Hamten, let's wait, Achiyale explain the regal, till Rabbi Abba comes to me during Yontif time, and I'll discuss the matter, how he did such a underhanded thing by purchasing this land, even though Rav Gidl was investigating to buy it. He was actually about to purchase it. He saw like Ashkere. When Rav Abba came to Rav Yitzchak, he found him, and he Amalei, so Rav Yitzchak told him, Oni Mahape Pacharara. If you have a poor person looking to take a hot meal and somebody else grabs it from him, what would you say for such a person? Amalei Nikra Rasha. He's called a Rasha, right? He didn't say he is a Rasha. He's called a Rasha. Some people do evil things, but they're not an evil person. They're Nikra Rasha. They're called a Rasha. So he asked the question, then why did you do such an evil thing? Rav Gidl was about to purchase this land. He was investigating it, and you went ahead and behind his back and purchased it. I had no idea Rav Gidl was looking to purchase this land. So again, then give it to Rav Gidl. Then why don't you turn it around and give it to Rav Gidl? Or sell it to him. I don't want to sell it to Rav Gidl. The Ara Kamaisi. This is my first piece of property that I bought, said the Rabba. The Loy Misnamna Milsa. It's not a good sign to sell the first piece of property. Your first piece of property that you own should not be sold. You should hold on to it. So, but I did something underhanded. So I'll give it to him as a gift. Rav Gidl, as a gift, you can have the land. Rav Gidl, the Gemara ends the story. Rav Gidl lenochas law. Rav Gidl did not want to accept the gift, the ksiv, because the pasuk says, "V'soyni matanis yichya." Whoever hates receiving gifts, he will have a long life. Rabbi Abba lenochas law. Rabbi Abba did not want to use the land anymore, mishum dehapech bar Rav Gidl, because Rav Gidl was investigating the land to actually purchase it. Loy mar nachas leiv, loy mar nachas leiv. Not Rav Gidl, not Rabbi Abba wanted to use this piece of land. And it became used by the yeshiva boys. It became like a park or something like that, just to use for the yeshiva boys. So, nice story. So the Gemara says, if a man says to a woman, be mukudeshes to me after 30 days. After 30 days, I want you to be mukudeshes to me. And somebody else was mekadesh her within 30 days. So then she's mukudeshes to the second person. Because the first guy said, I want my kedushin to start after 30 days. So, but he's giving her money as kedushin right now. He gave her money. And so the kedushin should take effect after 30 days. So the Gemara asks, if nobody came to be mekadesh her within the 30 days, so maho, Rav Shmuel, the Amr Tavai, mukudeshes. It's obvious she's mukudeshes. The Afalpi, this is the novelty. She's akla mois. Even if she spent the money already, by the time the kedushin takes effect after 30 days, that's okay. The kedushin is valid. My tama, what's the reason? there's no money here. At the time that the Kedushin takes effect, there's no money anymore. Because the money he gave her is not considered like a loan, and it's not considered like a deposit. We know you can't be Mekadesh Anisha as a loan. So the Gemara explains, it's not like a deposit that you need the money. If someone has a deposit by a woman and says, okay, now use that deposit that I gave you as your Kedushin money, there has to be a Shava Pruta left of the deposit in order for her to be Mekudeshes. But that's if he initially gave it to her as a deposit, not to be used. So because then Bershusa Demara Kamas Akli. So when it got used up, it was actually in the owner that it was used up. In the owner's domain, it was used up. When he originally gave her the Kedushin money, it's her money. It wasn't his money anymore. So, and she had the right to use it. She didn't wait for the 30 days to use it. She started using it right away. I guess if he would have backed out of the Kedushin, perhaps she would have owed him the money back. But at the time that he gave it to her, it was really a valid Kedushin money. But it's not considered a loan. It's also not considered a loan because milva is used to be spent and to invest or whatever. Here it was given to her as Kedushin money, not as a loan. So although you can't be Mekadesh and Isha for a loan, if you give a woman a loan and then say, oh, by the way, you don't have to pay me back, that's not a good Kedushin, because you initially gave the woman as a loan. You gave the money to her as a loan. But if you're giving her the money as Kedushin, but you don't want the Kedushin to take effect till after 30 days, she has a right to use the money prior to the 30 days. And it will still be a valid Kedushin. Let's say like this. You gave her the Kedushin money, right? And loy bar acha v'kitcha. Nobody came in between, and she didn't accept Kedushin from anybody else. V'chazar. Now she regrets it, and she wants to back out of this Kedushin. Maho, what's the din? Rabbi Yochanan says choizeres. Rabbi Yochanan says she could back out of the Kedushin. Why? Also dibur mavatal dibur, because she gave her consent to get married. Now she can get out of it by saying, I don't want to get married. If it's prior to 30 days, yes, the Kedushin didn't take effect. Rash Lakish has a new thing. She can't back out, even though the 30 days did not arrive. She gave her word that she's going to get mukudeshes. She can't now nullify what she originally gave. She can't say now I don't want it because she already gave her commitment for marriage. Rabbi Yochanan asks Rish Lakish, what do you mean? If someone hires a shliach to take off truma on his behalf, and then he decides to change his mind and doesn't want this person to be his shliach, so if he didn't do the shlichus yet, so then even if he did it and he was mavatal without he told somebody, I don't want him to be my shliach anymore, even though the shliach is not in front of him, and then the shliach went ahead and did the shlichus, ain truma say truma, the truma is not a valid truma. In our case, the dibur v'dibaru, it's one word versus another word. The original word was you hired a shliach. Then in your own home, you said, I don't want him to be my shliach anymore. And we see from this Mishnah, v'ka'asi dibur mavatal dibur, your second word can nullify your first commitment. So same thing by the case of the woman. Why don't we say that the woman who originally gave her commitment that she's going to get engaged at Kedushin after 30 days, now she doesn't want it, she wants to back out of the whole transaction. And says the Gemara, Sha'ani, over here it's different, because the sinus mois, this is the key, the giving of the money, liyad isha, to the hand of the woman, the chimasa dami, it's as if you did an action. The second dibur cannot nullify a masa, because you gave money to the woman. So that means when she's backing out of an action. And with words cannot erase an action that you did. Esvei. So the Gemara asks you a question. Hashaleach get liishto v'yigia b'shliach oishisholach acharav shliach v'oma loy get shenasati lecho batalhu hareze batal. Man hired a shliach to send the get to his wife, and he met up with the shliach, or he chased after the shliach, and he said, the get that I gave you is null and void. Don't give it to her. So he can nullify that shliach hareze batal. But he did an action. He gave the get to the shliach. And yet you see that his words could be mevatel, the get that he gave to the shliach. And it says that he could nullify that shliach. He can erase the shliach. So therefore, this is a question against Rish Lakish. Answers Rish Lakish, answers the Gemara. Asanami, over there also, it's a dibur versus a dibur. Kol kama deloy mata gita liyada dibur v'diburhu asa dibur mavatal dibur. Rish Lakish can agree that a dibur, a word, can nullify another word. And as long as the shliach didn't give over the get to the woman, it's just a word that the guy hired a shliach, and now he wants to unhire the shliach. So that works. What Shlakish said was, in our case in the Mishnah, it's a little different. A man gave money to a woman. So by her receiving the money, she did an action. I'm receiving this money, and I'm committing to get married to you after 30 days. So on this, Rish Lakish says she cannot retract after that because it's a masa. Rish Lakish asked to Rabbi Yochanan. Rish Lakish asked the question to Rabbi Yochanan, and maybe even a question to himself also. Or any keli that you want it to be roy lekabel tumah, so you can, just by thinking about it, that you want to make it, this is the final product, it automatically becomes the final product, and the vessel becomes susceptible for tumah. For example, you made a bench, and then you said, I'm stopping here, I'm just going to leave it as a bench. And you don't want to make it a bed. So then, once you said it's a bench, now this bench is susceptible for tumah. Then it cannot become unsusceptible to tumah unless you do an action. That means that you start sanding it down to make it into a bed. Then you could undo your original thought. And once you start sanding it, so then it's not a finished product. So therefore, it would not be susceptible to tumah. We go to Amid Beis. Masa moitzi miyad masa or miyad machshava. An action can undo an action, and an action can undo a thought. Machshava, but a thought. A machshava, an einu moitzia, cannot undo loy miyad masa v'loy miyad machshava. For example, you had a thought that this is going to be a bench. And then you're thinking about that. I want to think about that. I maybe I should make it into a bed. So once you thought that it's going to be a bench, the second thought cannot undo the original thought. So that's what the machshava, the second thought, cannot undo an original masa or an original thought. Now, a thought is like a spoken word. I understand why a thought can undo an action, because a thought or a word cannot undo an action. Why can't it work to undo a thought? So we're going to stop here in a second. So why don't we say, again, you're saying a dibur could be mevatel a dibur, so then you should say a machshava, a thought should undo a thought. In our case is that if you thought to make it into a bench, and so now it's susceptible to tumah, and then you said, let me think about it, maybe I want to make it into a bed. So that second thought should be able to undo your original thought and now make it unsusceptible to tumah. So why does this Mishnah say not so? Answers the Gemara, Shanu machshava tumah. Thinking about making something susceptible to tumah is the chimas adam. It's as if you did an action. The original thought to make it susceptible to tumah is like an action, because the Torah calls it an action. You go to Rav Papa, like Rav Papa explained. Rav Papa said a contradiction. It says the pasuk ki yitain, the karinim ki yutam. The Torah says that when water falls on an apple, so then it's susceptible. You put water on an apple, now it becomes susceptible for tumah. And we read it ki yutan. That means even if you didn't put the water on the apple, if it fell by itself, it becomes susceptible to tumah. So hoketzat ki yutan dumik dechiyitin. When it falls by itself, it's as if you put it there. Ma yitin denichle. As long as when you put the water on the apples because you want it to be there. Afyutan, even if water fell by itself on the apple, the nichele, you want it. So because of that, therefore, since the Torah causes a thought when it comes to making something susceptible to tumah, the Torah considers it as if you made an action on the item. That's why the second thought cannot undo what your original thought was, because the first thought was an action. So that's how we explain that brisa. But the point over here is, and we'll stop over here stop for a moment. The point over here is that we have a machlokes in the Gemara, and we'll just review in a second. A machlokes. A woman took kedushin money and agreed to her future groom that I'll be mekudeshes to you after 30 days. The question is, can she back out after during the first 30 days? So Rabbi Yochanan said, sure, because she committed, and now she wants to uncommit, and the 30 days did not yet come. Comes along Rav Shlokish. Rav Shlokish says the chiddush, and this is the chiddush, that true, if it was a verbal commitment versus a verbal commitment, yes, one verbal could undo another verbal. But here, she actually accepted kedusha money. So that was an action. She did an action. So now she says, I don't want to be mekudeshes. Your second word cannot undo the action that you made with the commitment to get to have this to be engaged with this person.